Welcome to Lift Your Story podcast with guest Dr. B, EDM musician and author.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lorianne. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I'm Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we have Dr. B. He's the author of Elysium, The Holy War. He's also an EDM musician. Very pleased to have you here today. Thank you, Dr. B.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, being in the music business, I know it's a tough business from what I understand.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And succeed, but you independently put your first record out. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did that in 2019, April of 2019.
How hard was that to do?
It was, well, from it depending on the point of view you're looking at it, it's difficult in terms of writing the music, creating the music, trying to find your identity. What do you want to share with the world? Like, I know a ton of people that will have they have dozens and dozens of great songs, but they're too afraid to put it out, right? Because they're afraid of pretty much everything and anything. So I think for me, it was kind of figuring out that road where I wanted to figure out, well, how do I really want to be known as, and what type of music do I want to share? And for the first time in my life, I really got to make the music that I really wanted to make. Whereas in the past, when I was running a record label, I always had to put out the music for the sake of sales, like what's happening now, or what's the trend, or you got to kind of do what everybody else is doing, which I completely hated doing. It was really annoying. But yeah, once I figured out that, house music is my thing, deep house, I'm really good at that, techno. And, I think I made maybe 24 songs before I was really comfortable saying, okay, I found my groove. This is what I want to put out. But yeah, it was a progression to a certain point. Yeah.
No,
So you had enough, right? If
Oh,
I would say that's
yeah.
the name of one of the songs, guys. So if you're listening, that's why I said that. I do want, for our listeners, though, we have EDM musician. Can you just explain what EDM stands for those who would not know?
Yeah, it stands for electronic dance music. So that would be like house music, dance music, techno, tech house, deep house. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of, different subcategories or genres, but that's pretty much what it is. And it's usually got a high tempo. So I would say usually minimum 120 BPMs, anyway from 120 to, I would say, 160, 180. There's, some of those really hard techno trance are like, it sounds like a massive heartbeat. So it's pretty fast tempo. So that's the type of music it is.
So the industry, I mean, I know like actors, musicians, they really have a hard time, quote, breaking into the industry.
Yeah.
Because of the way the industry is structured.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and basically a lot of people say, once you sign with somebody, they pretty much own you.
Yeah.
So were you trying to get away from that?
You know what the funny thing is, when I was running a record label years ago, like, I understand that mentality from the record label's point of view. Then when I, wanted to put out music myself, initially I thought the record label route was the way to go. After about maybe 3 months, 4 months, I realized that no, this isn't the best way to go. First and foremost, no label is going to sign you if you don't have at least 500,000 followers, or like a certain amount of streams, or a certain amount of fan base. In other words, they don't need to take just anybody off the street. They want somebody who's already essentially selling records, right? So if that's the case already, if I know that going into it, well, I already got my work cut out for me, because I need to build a fan base, right? It's one step at a time. And I understand that. But at the time when labels want to sit down with you, why would you even bother taking the meeting? I mean, you've already done all the work. You figured out all the like your marketing concept, your image, all of that. And for one reason or another, it's worked, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have those fans.
Mhm.
So I kind of like think in my mind, I think of where I want to be, and then I work my way backwards. And ultimately, I decided that my goal in life isn't to be the best musician in the world. It's to be a doctor, which is why I'm in school. Music is second on my list. So I shifted my priorities. I said, I'm spending way too much time, focusing on these other things when I should be focusing on school, and just kind of let things happen naturally. And I noticed when I started doing that and I stopped focusing on it, the music started coming out better. It started coming out faster. I started understanding what my listeners really wanted and what they were into, like what's getting more streams, what's getting less. I pay attention to the comments on social media and things like that. And I just kind of took it one step at a time. And now, 2 years later, the crazy thing is I'm making music that I've never done before. Like, I'm into so much different things. Like, I make electronic dance music, but I've been making a lot of hip hop music lately. I've been doing a lot of trap music. I've made a lot of reggae music. Pop. I've done a lot of pop music, and more recently, my best-selling comic book series, it's being turned into a musical, like a musical performance, a musical theater show. That's what I call it. Anyway, so I'm writing the show now, and based on the concept of the show, I'm writing ballet. And I'm doing chamber music, and I'm doing there's like contemporary dance involved. There's hip hop dance. I'm working with the chamber orchestra. Yesterday I just finished my second classical music song. It's part of the show, and it was like really inspired by Game of Thrones. Like, I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. So I'm really proud, man. I'm really proud of like the progression. I mean, since I started, I'm now on my fourth instrument that I'm playing now. So my advice to anybody is just don't be afraid of going for it, trying for things. Don't kind of keep yourself in a box. I mean, if the box works for you, then if it works for you, but I say kind of, stretch your wings a little bit, maybe step out of the box and see what happens. Because I always feel like every time I do something new or different and I go back to house music, I always make like a way better song than the previous song that I've made before. Like, I feel like all these different experiences, it's just making me overall a better musician, right? So yeah, man, I'm having a lot of time. I'm working with 2 opera singers now on a couple of opera songs that I have to do for the show. And I'm just having so much fun. It's just such a beautiful creative experience, and I feel so privileged that I get to do this. I get to spend my day like writing these scenes, and I have like all these visions in my mind. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to like everybody seeing it. Oh yeah, and I hope you come. I hope you're right here in Ontario, right? So it's launching in Toronto, so you better come. I expect
that's really
you there.
diverse. Very, very diverse, what you're talking about with the music and so on. My dad, by the way, sang opera, so I
Oh
grew
my
up with
goodness,
that.
that's so amazing. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, and we used to have opera singers. They used to have them when they used to come into Mississauga for the opera, and my parents used to house them there. But the other thing I wanted to know about your and a comic book as well. What was your comic book about?
Well, the comic book is the Elysium, the Holy War. It's a best-selling graphic novel. And the whole story, the general story is there's a holy war that takes place between God and the devil. And what happens is when we all die, everybody assumes that, good people go to heaven, bad people go to hell. What we realize is in the afterlife, there's this secret war that's taking place, and everybody, depending on how you live your life, among other things, which I won't bore you with all the details, but that determines which side of the war you fight for.
Wow.
And it also determines the kind of the hierarchy or the level in the war you have. So for example, maybe somebody who was always picked on, who was maybe 5'2", always bullied, but on the inside, they saw themselves as 6'5". They've had a lot of courage. They've had a lot of big ideas, boldness. It's very possible in the afterlife, that's how you're portrayed and that's who you are. You're no longer, this small little person on earth. So in the musical theater show, what happens is the story, actually the Elysium part of the story only comes in maybe 60% into the show. The show is really about a musical journey and experience. So my character leaves Earth because he's no longer inspired by humanity, and he travels the universe looking for inspiration. So I have this, so on stage, every time there's like this musical experience, I portray it through interpretive dance, whether it's through ballet, contemporary dance, opera music. At the same time, what's taking place on the stage, we have these big giant screens where we're showing illustrations. There's like, scenes where I'm traveling through space. So it's all supposed to kind of take place together all at the same time. So you have a completely different experience. So halfway through the show, my character learns about the Holy War, and then he comes back to Earth. He crashes into Earth. And then one of the angels abducts him for his musical talent. So there's a separate place in the angelic realm where one of the angels, he's called the Dark Angel, and he's not part of the good side or the bad side. He's actually banished. But he sets up this sanctuary where the angels and the demons can sit together, but actually take a break from the war. So in this place, we need music and entertainment. So the Dark Angel, he literally just kidnaps these musical, fantastic beings, and he makes them their slaves. So my character ends up getting kidnapped, and then you show like the cave and all the angels, and this big musical performance happens. And then, well, I'm not going to say what happens at the end of the show, but that's ultimately what happens. So, and then it just kind of moves on from there.
Sounds fascinating. I'm so glad they're going to be close by to go see it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I'll definitely save some tickets for you. That's for sure. That's for sure. So I'm trying to make it very, I feel like after COVID, everybody's going to want to go out and do something, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and we're all going to do the things we did before, but I think there's going to be a lot of us that are going to be looking for something different. Something like, listen, I'm finally out and I'm okay, and I can take my mask off and not worry about ending up in the hospital. Like, I really want something different, not necessarily better, but just different. And I'm hoping this show will provide people, just one of those opportunities. I hope they leave saying that was something I've never thought I'd ever see or witness or experience before. And to have a nice balance between ballet, contemporary dance, hip hop, opera music, orchestra, you know what I mean? To kind of put it all together. It takes time to do that. I think you need a good ear for that and the right story. But so far it's coming together, and I'm composing everything myself. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope everybody likes it. I really do.
Sounds pretty amazing to me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, to go back a little bit, you were talking about the record labels. You have to have your following. You have to have,
Yeah.
box check, this box check, this box check, But, and so I'm going to go back because I know like shows like The Voice or America's Got Talent, all those type shows.
Yeah.
Anyway, and a lot of people come on there and you find out, well, I used to just do YouTube videos. I'd play my guitar and sing a song. I'd write songs, and that's how people, gained a following.
Yeah.
Like just I'm just saying as an example, YouTube, and so they've got 500,000 followers, like you say, and they've got a big audience. So with the technology of today, Zoom, YouTube, all these different platforms and stuff, I would think it'd be much easier to develop that than it would have been 20 years ago.
Oh, for sure. And you know what the crazy thing is? There are so many artists that you have never heard of that are getting 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. There's a guy just locally in Toronto. I just found out a couple of days ago he's from Toronto. I thought he was American, but his name is Sick Music. This guy's got like, I think 4 million monthly listeners, and he's right here in Toronto. Like I've never heard of him up to like maybe 6 months ago. And I only heard of him because I just saw a few videos on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, but I mean, he's obviously been doing this for a while, right? I mean, he didn't just wake up one day and get 4 million monthly listeners. I mean, I was like, Jesus Christ, what, like this guy, like for all I know, could be living around the corner from me, right? So my point is, there was another girl too, I forget her name, but a female hip hop star, I saw her on Twitter, has 6 million streams on like one song alone. I was like, who is this person? I've never even heard of them. There are so many people that are successful, and just to go along with what you're saying, they're following that program, right? And you got to figure out what your program is. Maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's Instagram, whatever, but you need to use, in this day and age, your social media status just to kind of let people know who you are, what you're doing, what your story is, and, hopefully they take the ride with you, and you need to figure out, and not everything works for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, like I have like no followers on YouTube. I don't post there often. Maybe it's my own fault. Maybe I should post more things. But I have like a pretty large following on Instagram. You know what I mean? So, I mean, my point is, I think you just need to kind of figure out what works for you and be more open-minded. I should probably take my own advice, but I don't know.
There was a time there where there was one, it was like a Facebook, I think it was called MySpace, where it's primarily all musicians. And then all of a sudden you don't hear about it anymore.
Yeah. I never got into MySpace. I think Facebook kind of took over. But
but it was like the Facebook for musicians to YouTube. So like matched YouTube with MySpace was big, and then it just went to the wayside. I was surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty surprised too. But I think that's definitely, the main way to go. Especially now, because if you think about it, like you can't do shows or you can't really perform anywhere. So I think now is a perfect time for that. But one thing I've noticed works for me, I've also noticed it works for quite a few other people. If you just don't just like play your song, but if you like show your talent. So let's say if you play the piano, if you just take a 10-second clip of playing the piano, you'll notice that'll get a whole lot more songs than if you play like the MP3 version of, the actual song. And I've realized people love watching other people do things that they can't do. Now, and it could be the smallest, it could be the stupidest thing in the world, right? But people love watching videos and say, oh my God, that is so awesome. Like, I wish I could do that. It took me a while to figure that out. But once I started like showing like finger drumming videos and like more stuff that I take for granted every day, what actually one of my kids told me, and she's like, Dad, why don't you like film that more? Like, you're always here practicing, like, people would like this. I'm like, I don't think people care. She's like, I'm pretty sure you're wrong. So I did that, and she was right. It actually got a lot more views. But yeah, little things like that, or if you're a singer, oh man, people love watching videos of vocalists, right? I mean, I love that.
Well, that's the thing. You go on to YouTube, and when you see, I mean, I know that there was one singer, I don't know that I want to bring him up, but I'll say it. Garth Brooks for a while there would not go on YouTube. You had to go on a special one. So anything that you looked up for him, you couldn't. So with other singers that were doing, which they kind of, they're not supposed to do that on YouTube either. Part of it is when he did finally come out for the first little while, it was just all lyrics. And I'm going, I don't want lyrics. I want the video.
I think maybe he was kind of lazy there for a while, but yeah.
There was something about the label or something that there was some dispute anyway, but he is now on there. Which,
okay, cool.
Emo or something. Well, he's somewhere that you can access him, but for a while there, he didn't want his stuff up on there, which is fair. As an artist, you should have the right to, where you want to put it. Absolutely. Yeah. But it was so depressing because you want to see the official video.
Yeah.
I want to see this. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you don't want to see the bootleg. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because you were dead on. People love to see somebody doing something they can't do. I mean,
Mhm.
with this play the guitar, sing, I don't magic. It doesn't matter because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just so in awe of people that have a talent. They can play an instrument, they can sing. You know, because I can't do squat. So, you know, and thumbing through YouTube.
We're all good at something. Look, you got a podcast. I don't have a podcast.
But you know, like thumbing through YouTube, you'll see some young kid, they're playing or singing, and you're like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. 8 years
Yeah.
old, it's
You know
amazing.
what the crazy thing is? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, never mind that. My mother sent me one of a 91-year-old doing gymnastics, and I mean, so it doesn't just have
Whoa,
to be young
91.
or whatever. Except for my flute playing didn't go over very well when I played, Silent Night with my flute. Put it up. I didn't get many views on that. I don't get that.
No, you got maybe reposted.
No thanks.
But like you
There's no
say,
other word.
those little clips,
Yeah.
I mean, those are great.
Yeah, no, they're really awesome. I think maybe about 3 to 4 weeks ago, I saw right here on CP24, the local news, there's a little girl who won a competition to play with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, if I'm not mistaken. And she's a violinist, right? So they showed her playing, and I was in absolute awe. I couldn't believe it. But here's the thing, get this. This is what really stayed with me. As good as she was, the lady who was interviewing her said, so how long have you been playing? And I thought she was going to say 5, 6, she said, oh, only 2 years. So I said, wait a second, let me stop. It made me stop and think. If she could, and now she's playing Beethoven, by the way, in 2 years. Now, of course, that does take some natural ability, but what I'm saying is, if you look at the hard work and dedication, most of us like looking at things that we can't do, but most of us aren't willing to put in the hard work and dedication that it takes to be good at anything. And I tell this to my kids all the time. Anything worth doing requires time and effort. Don't expect to get it in 24 hours in a day, right? So like for myself, I started taking piano lessons, drumming lessons. Look, I got a drum set right here. I take right here's my MPC. I do finger drumming. That's another instrument. I got a guitar.
Yeah, I just bought a guitar too.
There you go.
I'm gonna, so that's next thing to do. I have 3 chords I know so far, so I'm getting there.
That's amazing. My daughter started playing the ukulele about I think she's been playing for like 8 months now. She's actually really good. I told her we got to do a song, but she's like really shy. So I'm giving her space. But I'm just saying, my point is, look at what's possible. Like anything is possible, right? I mean, it just takes time and effort and dedication, and you gotta want it.
Yeah.
You gotta want it. You gotta really say, you know what, TV can wait. I'd rather do this or I'd rather do that. So and I love that about human beings. Like there's so many cool stories about human beings doing things, these amazing things that we have never thought of before. And I like listening to those stories. I like writing a lot of stories. So obviously I'm writing a show. So my mind is always in another place. One of my biggest inspirations is Zack Snyder. So I love his stories and the way he depicts things on camera. Oh my goodness. Did you guys see the new Justice League movie? Did you guys see that?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Oh, you got to watch it, man. Your mind will go to a different place. It's amazing. It's a super cool movie.
But see, you're a good role model for your daughter.
I hope so. I'm trying to be.
You've lived it.
Yeah.
Well, you're coming from experience. You're encouraging her, you're nurturing her. But she sees what you do and what you've done.
Yeah.
And so that's fantastic, I think.
Well, thank you. Well, see, the thing is, as I said earlier, my wife and I, we own several clinics throughout Ontario. Now, for me personally, I'm in university to be a doctor. Like, I don't have to do that. I can just sit back, relax. We have plenty of employees. We have dozens of therapists. We have a full administration. Like I personally don't work. I go to school full time and I take care of my kids. My wife runs all the clinics. She's the clinical director. And like I said, we have a staff. But for me, it's not about the money. It's not about being comfortable. It's about I have the opportunity to be a doctor. So like my kids asked me like years ago when they were like, I think 7, 6. So like, well, why are you doing it? And I'm like, why not? I mean, think of it this way. If I become a doctor, think of all the people that I can help and save. As a doctor, every day, all the therapists, we go into work every day, and our motto is we get ready to save lives. I mean, think about that. It's not about the money. It's not about anything else. It's about doing something good every single day with your life. And I have the opportunity to do that. I also have the opportunity to be a full-time musician. You know, I could still take a break from that world and, you know, enjoy myself and be a musician and be artistic. But I mean, if you think about it, what else am I going to do? I mean, you can only sit around for so long and twiddle your thumbs, right? So, and I tried to get my old job back, and my wife said, "Hell no, you're not coming back to the office." So, so I can't even go back to work if I wanted to. She's like, no. This is my staff. She's like, no. You need to go. And there's like no men in there. It's only women too. I can't remember the last time we hired a man.
Well, so
I think that's great. You've got versatility in what you want to do. And like you said, you got the doctor, you got your music. And I mean, I really, again, going back to my dad was an opera singer. He did operettas while we were growing up, but he was also an engineer. And he, you know,
That's amazing.
So we saw both of those sides of him, which was really nice too, because you see of a parent, you go, wow, you're really scary to the people you work for, but you're really fun to all those people that you're seeing. And like two different personalities. It's just, it's cool. And it inspires the children to say, you know, like, this is doable. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I hope my daughter says something like that when she gets a little older. That's really nice. I'm sure your dad heard you say so many times.
Yes.
Just these beautiful comments that you made to him. But I mean, for me, I you know, that's one thing as a parent I did think about. I still do think about. I mean, being a positive role model to them. The other day when I finished, I remember when I finished my very first chamber music song, and I played it for her. She was like the first person I played it for, and she looked at me. She gave me the biggest hug, and she says, "Daddy, I'm so proud of you. You're like." She's like, "Did you know you're the reason why I started playing the ukulele?" And I said, "Are you serious?" She's like, "You never told me that before." She said, "Yeah, like when I saw you put your hands on the piano and you started playing, and then I saw you start playing the drums, and then you bought a guitar, it made me feel like, well, my dad's doing it. Why can't I do it? You know, I could do it." And then it made me think, like, imagine if I didn't do that. I'm not saying like I wouldn't have inspired her in other ways, but I didn't. I did this. You know, this is what I chose to do. And it makes me thankful that, you know, I didn't do something bad, or they're not seeing me do something negative like drugs or, you know, something horrible that would put their life on a negative path. Yeah. So I think about it all the time. Yeah.
I just want to put a quick shout out though too, because I'm talking about my dad, but when my dad was doing operettas, my mother did all of the trees and the flowers in the background. She taught me how to sew. So as you,
that's amazing.
All with us, but she was constantly teaching us too. So we had two very good role models on along the way. So I just want to make sure I shout out to my mom too, because you know.
let me give you some words of encouragement.
Oh, that's nice.
About your kids. They will, and it'll be random, but they'll come up to you and they'll say, "You know, Dad, the time you said this, the time you did that," and they'll tell you what it meant to them.
Yeah.
And you have no idea. And you'll hear that more than once, of something that you did, something you said when you were there for them, and they'll come and tell you how much it meant to them and what a change it was for their life at the time.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm glad you're saying that, because, you know, when my kids were literally babies, 3 months, 4 months old, 1, 2, you know what everybody would tell me? Well, you have girls. So first of all, I don't envy you. And I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, and my kid's like 6 months. So I'm like, do you know something I don't know? Like, what's gonna happen? And then he like, this was all guys that said this to me, by the way. And then he would say, all the guys would say, enjoy it now, because when they get 11 and 12, they're not going to want to talk to you anymore. So I was like, what happens when they're 11 and 12 that they don't want to? I never saw it like that, but I thought, okay, maybe they're just at that age. I guess that's what that means. I would ask my wife. She's like, I don't know. We don't have a 12-year-old. She's 6 months. I don't know what they're talking about. So my kid is now, they're now 15 and 12. And that never happened. They never stopped talking to me. They never went away. I just asked my daughter yesterday, I'm like, do you still like me? She's like, yeah, you're okay. So
Well, you know.
I'm like, okay, so maybe it was them. Maybe it was just them, but
It's the children, just like, you know, some they say, like, you can have boys that are trouble and girls that are great or girls that are in trouble, but it's just that generalization, which is funny.
It's just the relationship you've cultivated with kids.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference.
I think you're right. I think they some of my old friends, I think they've had some bad relationships or something. But I was always expecting them to kind of stop talking to you or not being open. And I'm not going to say, you know, being a parent has been, you know, perfect the entire time. I mean, I'm sure you guys can attest to that, but overall they do come and talk to us. You know, I mean, I'd like to think we're open-minded and we like to listen, even if we don't like everything that you hear. I think you should listen. Definitely. And plus it's kind of our job. So, I mean, damn, imagine if we didn't listen to our own kids at home. Exactly. And we're getting paid to listen to strangers. I mean, you know, we can't do that. So, we have some great conversations and we spend some good quality time together, especially during COVID. I mean, personally, I think this has brought my family closer together. Yeah. You know, we really realized what we want, what we don't want, what's important, what's not important. Just my neighbor 2 doors down, his grandmother died of COVID not too long ago. You know, and that really made me stop and think, like, when you see somebody, if you know somebody and it affected them, you know, hopefully it makes you appreciate the time you have, you know, and the people in your life that you do have. So
sure.
Anyways, that's my Oprah Winfrey moment.
That's okay. So how can our listeners reach out to you?
Oh, you can definitely check me out on Instagram. My profile name is I am Dr. B. So it's just separated by the underscore. So it's I_am_DI._B. I'm also on Twitter. No underscore, just I am DRB, the number 6 for Toronto, of course, 6 side, right? You know what I'm talking about. Anybody want to shoot me off an email and just tell me how much of an awesome human being I am? You can reach me at Jonathan Borden, the number 643@gmail.com. So that's with no H, JONATHAN BORDEN, the number 643@gmail.com. So that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
And of course, everybody, you know, check out my Spotify page. And I just released a new song last week. I'm releasing about 6 or 7 songs to promote the Elysium show. So I just had the very first single come out. It's called The Three Wise Men. You guys check it out and let me know what you think of the storyline.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. Let's do it again.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.